I'm Dan Blanchard. I'm an author, speaker, educator, philanthropist, I think. I wrote a book called How to Become More Successful with Difficult Students. And I got to tell you, there's a little story behind this. The book's a great book, but the story behind this is when I first became a public school teacher in the inner city, I was still kind of fresh out of the Army. I was a big sports star, a lot of discipline there in the Army, a lot of discipline. And I remember like the drill sergeants yelling at us, what are you doing, dropping my thing? And it's like, whoa, what's that? So there was a lot of discipline, that I came from with the military and with sports. And I walked into the inner city classroom, and I remember telling the kids, you're going to learn, and you're going to learn a lot. And I was trying to have that confidence and like that discipline of like my sports coaches and like the military, people that I was around. And I found out it didn't work. It was like the kids started like almost like ganging up on me, trying to ruin my day, push my buttons. I couldn't even get them to open their books some days. I went home every single day going, I don't know if I want to keep teaching. I might have to quit. And in my first few years were like that. It was terrible. So I learned the painful way that you can't come in as like a drill sergeant. You can't come in as like a hard-nosed sports coach when you're working in the inner city and you have like difficult students that you're working with. You know what I'm saying? You got to like build a relationship. I found that that's like the best way to go about it. And trust me, I tried a lot of other ways. It just didn't work. So I had to build a relationship and get to the point where, I noticed like in sports, my kids would like go through a brick wall for me in sports, but they wouldn't do it in the classroom. So I'm like, well, so what was the difference? I had a much better relationship with the kid in sports. I had to build that relationship in the classroom and then use some little strategies. Once I got them to be a relationship with me, I could do little things. Now, I know in the classroom, they needed like structure. So many of them didn't have structure in their neighborhoods, homes. So as soon as they came into the classroom, day one, I met them at the door, shook their hand, said their name, and then told them, this is where you're sitting on the seating chart. So I established those expectations immediately. And then I had some stuff I took from sports, like Notre Dame, when you tap that little poster to play like a champion. I had that on my door, and this is all in the book. I'd have them, meet them at the door, shake their hand, high five them, whatever, and then they'd go in. They would tap, and it was like a little psychological thing. Goosebumps going down your back, like, yeah, I'm gonna win today. But you're in a classroom. You're in a classroom, right? So, they'd come in and they would go right to their seats. And now, do now would be on the board. You're gonna do this now. So I'm having like this simplified as possible, this little structure, this little routine when the kids come in, saying like, you're going to do your assignment, you're due now. Why take attendance and pass back papers, right? And then I open up, I open up with good things. Hey, what's good in your life? What's good in your life? What's good in your life? So I do all these things to develop like this climate, this positive atmosphere, this like team-like atmosphere, right? Now, that's going to win so many kids over because they're not used to that. I used to even do like a little blessing at the end of class to fire them up and get them ready. It wasn't religious. It's more like psychological, kind of like pump them up sort of thing, like a coach, to get them ready for their next class. When they walk down the hallway and went to the next class, they hopefully would be in a good mood and ready to go, right? So I'm building this whole positive climate, this positive atmosphere. And for a lot of kids, you win them over by doing that, and they're not going to give you trouble. But of course, some will. Some will give you a hard time, right? So those kids, there's a whole nother I don't know if it's tier 2 or what you want to call it, but there's a whole nother strategy. One of the biggest things I found with them is don't argue with them. A lot of adults don't understand this, but here's the thing. Kids really don't have the power that us adults think they have. The only real power they truly have is to push your buttons, to argue with you, get you upset. That's the only true power they really have. So if you stay non-emotional, don't argue with them, maybe offer them choices. I say, use like the broken method technique. Hey, Billy, open your book to page 10, please. He's not doing it. Come back, hey, Billy, open your book to page 10, please. He's like, well, but Maria hasn't done it. Don't get into that because you'll be lured into like the argument. Don't get into that. Just, Billy, open your book to page 10, please. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that because my pencil's not work. Billy, open your book to page 10, please. Don't go into the argument, all right? Just keep repeating it, all right? And if he still doesn't, then start offering him maybe alternatives. Billy, you can open your book to page 10, or, maybe I have to call your mom. It's your choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to open your book to page 10 or call your mom? Your choice. I'm not going to make that choice for you. You do it. So now I'm putting the power into his lap, saying, this is you, Billy. You're choosing. You're doing this. Just let me know which one you want. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not coming off as like that mean teacher that's like, oppressing them even more. So in my book, How to Become More Successful with Difficult Students, there's just so many of these little techniques that you wouldn't think much of. Sending home little positive postcards. I look every day. I look around. What kid can I do? I can send a postcard home for. And I go, oh, that kid is special today. Or that kid, volunteered in class. So I'm making little notes. Send them a postcard. And it just goes on and on. There's so many little things you can do to create this like atmosphere, to create a situation where the kids know that you're organized, you're structured, your class, there's expectations, but you're not the mean guy. You're the kind of like the cool one. Maybe share some stories of what you're doing. I'm training for a 5K, let them know that, right? But you're the cool guy or the cool woman who's teaching them, you've got like a life, let's say outside of school, that you kind of share with them a little bit. So, there's so many ways to do this. And it took me a lot of years to learn these little tricks to make this atmosphere and to create this environment that even when I'm correcting them, it doesn't sound like I'm reprimanding them or yelling at them or anything like that. But I'm running a well-structured class, and I have a great classroom environment. Like I said, tons of these little tricks in my book, How to Become More Successful with Difficult Students.